So today we're gonna shoot a short little video on loading up the spa equipment, the spas onto the dolly. Just one of the other mini hats that Sean and I wear around Ocean Quest here. So, but we're gonna put this little video together to show some of the other guys how this is done. That way they can do it on the side or on weekends, make a little extra money. All right, guys, so the first thing we want to do is make sure we get our van loaded up. So on the floor, there are going to be these startup chemical kits that Kim makes. They've got all your chemicals that you'll need in them for a traditional startup. Frog system, water sample bottle, spray nozzle for the filter cleaner. It's got your filter cleaner, your anti-foam, little 3-ounce measuring cup, shock chlorinating granules, and then your cheat sheet. We'll give this to the homeowner. It lets them know everything that they need to do at a fresh startup to make sure that their water's clean and usable and ready to use. Of course, they want to bring in a water sample so that we can balance things like calcium, total alkalinity, pH. Those things they can check with the test strips that are in the startup Spa Frog test kit, but a water sample is always the best idea. So make sure you've got one of these on your truck. I would probably try to keep an extra one on the van at all times. And then we'll go out and load up the van with all the other stuff that you'll traditionally need on a startup or a delivery. On the contract, you may want to read over it and double check that there aren't things like handrails, umbrellas, other accessories that come with the tub. Sometimes a customer will buy an additional. And the last thing you want to do is get out to that job site and realize that there's an umbrella or a handrail that you've forgotten back at the shop, and you can't fill the tub until that's slipped underneath the base of the tub. Like most of the accessories that we don't drill into the side of the cabinet, they're going to slip right underneath the base of the tub. Once you get this tub filled with 4,000 pounds worth of water, you're not going to move that tub and get that base underneath. So if you've got a handrail or you've got an umbrella, make sure that it's on your truck before you start the delivery. So on today's delivery, we've already got the Chem kit pulled off the showroom floor. We already know that the steps are in the tub because it's a Marquee brand tub. But if it weren't and we had to pull steps for this tub, the steps are around on the back side of this counter. This is where all your cover lifts and your there's some additional Marquee steps. So again, before you just assume that the Marquee has the steps in it, double check that they're not up here because we do have some additional steps up here. Make sure you've got your cover. The cover description will match the outside of the tub out there. So right here we've got a Broadway is a 77 by 77 walnut tub. I don't believe these say anywhere on the cover that it's specifically for a Marquee Broadway, but you'll just have to know your sizes. On the jacuzzi, it's a little bit more convenient because the jacuzzi will say J355, J365. This fits both of those tubs. This one actually does say Broadway on it. 77 by 77 walnut for a Broadway. Some of the older labels do not. 77 by 77 walnut, it doesn't say anything on there regarding what tub that's for. This one does. So you'll just have to know what your labels go to, but make sure you have a cover. Make sure you have a cover lift, and this has been the most popular cover that we've used so far. If something changes, we'll definitely let you know, but the CoverMate 1 is the kind, does not have the hydraulic arm on it, but for us, they drop down a little bit lower. They're a little bit more inconspicuous in the up position. They're really well mounted. The side plates are screwed in with, I believe, 12 screws, so it's a really good secure side. They're easy to install, and again, they drop down a little bit lower behind the back of the tub, so we think they look nicer. So there's those. Again, safety rails. If the customer asks for a safety rail, we've got the safety rails here. We've got the cover lifts for the J495, the cover lifts for the other 400 series tubs. So yeah, we'll make sure we've got a cover lift, a set of steps, a startup chemical kit and our cover on the van. And I would Sean already got one. I would recommend putting all the accessories in the back of the van before you put the tub on. It just makes it a little easier to load all that stuff up. So Sean and I like to load the back of the van with the trailer empty, only because the covers are really big. And when you've got, especially a big tub, when you've got a big tub that sticks out to about here, getting that cover down and into the van is kind of a pain in the butt. So I would recommend loading your stuff before you get in here with this little tub and this little cover. Not that big a deal, but get the back of your van loaded first. Make sure you have tools on your truck. I would recommend your wrenches, your drill, tape measure, screwdrivers. Make sure you've got a saw, because a lot of times we've got to modify the handrail on the cover lift for these tubs. Okay guys, so that the tubs are back here behind the shop are all going to be wrapped up, or should all be wrapped up. It's going to be obvious which ones are marquee and which ones are jacuzzi. Take a look at the contract. The contract will have a serial number on the tub. The outside of this tub will also have a serial number on it. Big, bold numbers. So make sure that these numbers match whatever's on the contract. You can also double check, like this is a Resort. It's a Signature Series. It's Alba, that's the color. And Walnut, I guess, is the outside of the tub. So make sure that your serial number and the description of the tub match. If they don't, you can always take it to Christy and she will verify, make sure everything's with the tub that needs to be with the tub, or that it's the right color. Inside most of the marquee tubs is going to be a set of steps, the set of steps that matches with the cabinet. Sometimes there are two sets of steps in there to go to two different tubs, but most of the time one set of steps is going to be in one tub to match that tub. Make sure that you have your steps before you leave. Jacuzzi does not come with steps in the tub, so make sure that if you're delivering a jacuzzi tub, you get a set of steps out of the back warehouse. The marquee should be in there, but again, I would double check and make sure that they're in there before you leave the shop. So we had to move these tubs out of the way to get to that big stack of tubs over there. Make sure when you put the tubs down on the ground, you put some boards here so that you can stick the forks back underneath it. Remember to be extremely careful when picking these tubs up. Whenever we have to dispose of these tubs for warranty purposes, sometimes they make us run the forks through the side of the tub to damage it, to make sure it's not usable again. So the forklift certainly can damage the hot tub if you're not careful. So please use extreme caution when picking these things up and moving them around. Sean does this like he does it every day because he's been doing it for a long time. But little drop down there, little bump. Make sure you get around that post there. Just barely gonna squeeze it through. Look at that, like a glove. We like to make sure that the control panel, the heaviest part with all the pumps, heaters, controllers, all that's right up here next to the forks. That's gonna keep this load a lot more balanced, because those forks only stick out to about 2/3 the length of the hot tub. And then whenever we get it onto the trailer, it's also going to make it balance a lot better. So I'm going to put that heavy weight right over the tires. You'll notice on this trailer, the Spa Dolly trailer that we've got, the tires are all the way at the back, and that's going to really help in keeping that heaviest part of the tub right over those tires there. So tires shifted a lot more to the back because the heaviest part of the tub is going to be back there. We want to try to keep that trailer, as much weight on that trailer, pretty even, so that the tongue weight doesn't lift up and it also doesn't squat the back of that as well. You'll notice he's leaving a little bit of a gap between these posts and the tub. We're going to put the gate on, and then that's going to butt right up next to it. Make sure you're always using a real big strap to strap these tubs down. Like I said, they're about 800 pounds empty, and we don't want that flying down the highway. All right, so on these tubs, This is a pretty short tub, but we can still put the strap in the same traditional spot. Some of the really small tubs you're gonna have to get creative, but this is designed so that this hook from the strap hooks right here to this little welded U on the frame. Pull it tight. Because this one's wrapped up, we can just go ahead and strap it. It doesn't need to be any cardboard underneath the strap. On a tub that comes off the showroom that's already been unwrapped, you'll want to make sure that you've got a good sized piece of cardboard underneath this strap that goes all the way down here, protecting the cabinet, and then especially down here at the bottom, because that cabinet is kind of brittle, especially when you've got a 5,000 pound strap on it. It's going to put a lot of tension on that cabinet. So make sure that the cardboard wraps both underneath the bottom and up here on the top to protect that shell. On the really small tubs or the round tubs, a lot of times we've got to start the strap down here at the gate and then wrap all the way around it to prevent it from shifting forward. What we like to do is kind of come at an angle from top down to bottom. One, that keeps it snugged up against the back of the trailer, and also it kind of keeps some pressure down on that tub. A couple of very important things you need to check for before you leave the shop. Make sure you've got a chem kit. I know we've got a chem kit. It is right back there. I don't know if it's going to focus on it. Barely. Okay, so we got our chem kit. Make sure you have your pillows or your headrests. Make sure you've got filters. Make sure you got your filter covers. Now, this tub is wrapped up from the factory. We know all that stuff is in there. But on anything that comes unwrapped or off the showroom floor, make sure that your filters, your filter cover, your headrests are all inside this van. Don't leave them on the tub. They will fly off at 70 miles an hour. Waterfall covers, filter covers, filters, headrests. Make sure that they're all inside this van. So while Sean's filling up with fuel, I'm gonna go ahead and check the tire pressure in these Spa Dolly tires. This one's a little bit squishy. One of these tires runs lower than all the rest. During the summertime, it's not a big deal. During the summertime, it just stays full. During the wintertime, when that air pressure drops, we have to fill this thing up pretty much every delivery. It's not that noticeable now, and we have a little foot pump in the van just in case we get out somewhere and that tire's flat. But it's not noticeable with the squeeze of a hand, but when you get an 800-pound tub on that Spa Dolly, then it becomes really noticeable. So always a wise idea to just go ahead and fill up the tires. Got to get a little snapshot of Sean eating his gas station breakfast. Of course, we'll edit this part out so that his wife doesn't see it, but he's about to put like 6 pounds of ketchup on that thing, and it's gonna be disgusting. So off we go. All right, guys, we got parked, got backed up here. I thought we were gonna get lucky. This is a luxury that we're not usually afforded at most properties, and that's a double gate. With a big double gate, a lot of times we can just spin this trailer around, take the trailer and all in, and because it's a trailer, we can slide that hot tub directly off onto the ground. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna do it the traditional way. We're gonna bring it in on its side like we normally would. Always a good idea to come back, see what you're working with before you get everything unloaded. We're gonna walk straight through here, and we can either walk through this opening here, or what Sean and I maybe do is come through this opening here. Clearance from floor to ceiling shouldn't be an issue, so we're gonna go ahead and get this thing in place. When you get out to a property, make sure that they have both a sturdy level surface to put this on. We've got a concrete slab out here. This is great. You're gonna have, again, 4,000 pounds worth of tub and water on this, so you're gonna wanna make sure that it supports that. You're also gonna make sure that you've got the proper wiring. We've got 2 hots, a neutral, and a ground, so we've got the proper wiring on this. On a jacuzzi tub, that will actually be a 3-wire setup with 2 hots and a ground, no neutral. If it does have a neutral, just cap it off. Make sure it's capped off inside the box. So looks like we've got plenty of wire and conduit here. Any extra that we have, we'll just go ahead and wind it up and put it inside the cabinet with the tub. Sean has already removed the wheels from the trailer. You go ahead and stick them inside the gate here. Make sure that the curve here curves up. The curved part goes toward the bottom. Make sure that it's secured with pins. These are adjustable. You've got, I believe, 4 holes or so, so you can make this really wide for the big tubs or you can bring it in really narrow for the tiny tubs. So the trailer is attached with 2 cotter pins here, and then there are also these pins here will allow the arms on the tub to raise and lower. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this and back up, and this camera over here is gonna record the action. Okay.
It's a light enough tub.
All right, so this is a light enough tub. Sean's gonna do it by himself, so he's gonna go ahead and drop that into place. The tub's gonna come up like this, and then we are going to take that tub and rock it forward. All right, now our trailer's gonna roll out, right out of the way, and then what we'll do is you're just gonna set it down on the ground. So now our tub's like this on the dolly. It's always a wise idea, especially on these marquee tubs, to go ahead and take the staples out of the bottom while it's up on its side, because getting these out on the ground is impossible. We're gonna go ahead and hook up our handles. There's a pin here. Take this pin out, put it inside the steering mechanism. So we're gonna go ahead and put that pin in so that we can steer this. We can steer it in both directions. With these tires, they steer independently, so we can actually walk this tub sideways, or we can turn it on a really short. Which way are you going? See, that'll walk it sideways, and then this way right here, we'll turn it sideways like that. So, okay, I'll put my camera. Make sure you have a knife on you at all times. Okay, so on the sides here, the customer wanted the cover to drop down as low as possible. So we're gonna put this at 12 inches from the top, 12 inches from the top and 9 inches from the back. That's going to allow that cover to drop down as much as possible. And then we're gonna throw a level on this just to make sure that our arms are level. When we go to mount this would actually be a little easier to video on the other side, but I got impatient, so. All right, so we got a couple of screws in that one. Let's go around to the other side. It'll be easier to video that there. So we're gonna put this roughly in the same spot as we did on the other one, which means we're level with this line right here, and then Sean's just gonna have to line me up from front to back. And he knows which grooves he was lined up on, so again, that rear arm hole right back here on the bottom needs to be 9 inches from the back of the tub and 12 inches from the top of the tub. Let me stick this guy.
Why is that so hard?
Don't know why that one took so much to go in, but all right. So then we're gonna go ahead and button up the rest of this. All right, guys. So I would always recommend using a regular real water hose. Don't use one of those silly expanding ones because they are terrible with water pressure. Use a real water hose like this. Put it down inside the filter compartment hole. Make sure the filter is out and the skimmer is out. Put the water hose down inside that filter hole. And then usually with these, you don't need the security or, you know, latching it onto to the tub or something like that. But I always like to put it underneath the cover to hold it in place. With the expandable water hoses, you'll always need to do that because they wave around and go crazy and just wild. We'll turn that water all the way up because we want as much water pressure as possible. You'll see that water's going to go ahead and start filling inside the filter compartment first. It's going to fill the plumbing, and we want the water coming out of the jets rather than the water going directly into the tub. It'll fill the plumbing first, and it'll prevent the pumps from starting up dry.
That's when it triples. We will show you the drain here. And I'm actually talking to you guys. This little cap comes off. You can hook a water hose up to it. Just hook the water hose up, and then wherever you take it to, just open that little butterfly valve, and water will start to come out.
So in here, Sean's going to go ahead and run this this cable up through this corner panel. Occasionally you'll have to take some screws off. Those screws right there. They do come with extras, or at least extra caps inside the owner's manual. So we're going to run the wire up through this corner right here, and then we'll show you on Sean's camera here how he wires that in. Okay, so the steps that come with it, they come in 4 pieces, and you can set them up with for a flat-sided tub. You'll use this step for the flat-sided tub, or you can set it up for a rounded tub. For the rounded tub, you'll use this step because it's got the arch in it. So if this were a round tub, we'd put the arch step on top, but since it's a flat-sided tub, we're going to put the flat step on the top. This is a really simple process. Sometimes it just takes you holding your tongue just right, but with these steps, you will slide this little notch right here down into that little groove right there, and then snap it into place on the front. You'll do that with both the front and the back to get it set up. We get the flat edge along the top step, so it'll butt up right next to the tub, and then the curved one on the bottom to match the front arch on this step. So we always like to ask the customer what side the towel rack goes on, these towel hooks, so it allows them to hook up to 3 towels on the side of the cover lift when the cover lift comes up. Usually they're going to want it in the place that is most accessible. On this tub, obviously, with it being over against the wall, you wouldn't want to put the towel rack there. But in some backyards where it's a little more open on both sides, you just ask the homeowner what side they want that towel rack on. When you set the self-tapping screws, we've learned from experience, make sure that you do this on the cover when the cover lift is in the up position. The last thing you want is for your drill to slip off and punch a hole in a $700 cover. So the other thing that we've learned over time is these drill holes, the heads on these screws is gonna stick up. And if they stick up and dig into that cover, again, the customer is going to want you to come out and replace a $700 cover. So rotate those screw holes so that they're in the down position That way when the cover lift lays flat, they're not touching the cover on either side, the top or the bottom. So we'll get this raised up. We'll get this bar right here centered from the neoprene handle on each side, and then we'll put those self-tapping screws in so that they don't dig into the cover, and we'll mount this towel rack on as well. So this cover lift in the full down position fits onto this cover absolutely perfectly. What you really want is, once the cover is squared up, it's even all the way around all four sides, you want to make sure that this cover lift bar right here that supports the cover runs right along this back seam, this back edge seam on the cover, because when it flips over, this portion is going to wrap around the cover lift, and the front half of the cover is going to rest on the other side. So you'll want this cover lift bar right along that back seam all the way across. So you can move these in or out however much to adjust it, but on this cover lift, like I said, you want to butt it all the way up next to that neoprene handle, and that'll be perfect on the Broadway, only on the Broadway. The rest of them, you'll have to adjust this in or out to compensate for the size of the cover. On the very small tubs, we will often have to cut off about 3 inches of this handle and then put the self-tapping screw somewhere down here where there is no hole. So just things to consider whenever putting one of these cover lifts on. With the cover lift in the up position, then we're going to go ahead and set the remainder of these 2 screws here. Always do this with the cover lift up though, because we don't want to punch a hole in the cover. Make sure you get all these little metal shavings off the cover so that they don't scratch or tear the customer's brand new cover. You may want to use a rag or a glove because those little metal shavings can give you one hellacious splinter. Now we're going to run the little rubber caps on all the screw heads. On colder winter days, you'll probably want to set those out in the sun because they can be a bit of a chore to put on those screw heads if they're cold. So I'm going to go ahead and take this little cap of little bag of caps and put those on the screw heads. It'll protect the screw heads so that they don't rust out, and it also looks a whole lot better because as you can see, these are you've got little silver heads sticking out on a black cover lift. So we're going to go ahead and cap all those off so they're not as noticeable. So now we put the caps on all the screw heads, so looks a lot better, a lot cleaner, blends in a lot better. Also, it will protect the cover whenever these wrap over around it. Of course, like I said earlier, these probably shouldn't come in contact with the cover whenever it's in the up position. We don't want those screw heads rubbing a hole in a brand new cover. Straps on the front and the back. The way we've got this cover lift designed, you're just going to pull them down to where they're somewhat tight, straight down, and then you're going to set that center screw in the little clip somewhere right around there, just to keep that cover snapped down. We've gone ahead and put the straps on the back with the latches. We're going to leave these latched. We like to keep them in the latched position on the back because the homeowner rarely likes to come around back to unstrap these. So we put them in a position where we can keep it strapped down even when the cover is in the up position. And make sure, when they come down, no tension on the straps. We want to make sure that these straps back here, when the cover is in the up position, there's no tension back here. We don't want it pulling away from the cab. Sean showing them how to adjust these jets individually. You can increase or decrease the power of the jets simply by turning them. I'll show you some video of that here in just a second when we get power to the tub. You can also divert power from one region to the other. In this tub, I believe this diverter valve does lower body therapy in one position and upper body therapy in the other, or you can set it right in the middle and get legs and back and shoulders all at the same time. The air controls will also change the intensity of the massage or how that massage might feel on your back. Pure water, a lot of times when it's just pure water coming out of those jets, it can cause some tears, micro tears in the outermost layer of skin, and give you kind of a
a tingling or a stinging sensation. If you add air, you don't have to force more water out of those jets, but you do get a deeper, more penetrating massage just by adding a little bit of air. So air controls here and air controls over there. Then you'll notice there are a couple of on-off valves as well. One of those valves is going to work your neck jets in that seat right there. That valve is going to work the neck jets right there, and those top jets, you can work them completely independently from all the other jets. And then that valve right there is going to work your waterfall. So it's going to turn the volume of the water coming out of that shear up or down. You can have it turned completely off, or you can have it just trickle out, or you can have it shoot out in a shear probably 14, 16 inches out into the water. You also have lights, LED lights around the exterior of the tub. So you can light up the tub with the LED lights, the footwell light down there, as well as the light behind the waterfall. They're all going to match each other. You'll have a broad range of colors, like 9 different colors programmed into these LED lights, so you can stop it on an individual color, or you can have it rotate through quickly or rotate through a nice slow scroll. The slow scroll is going to transition from one color to the next, whereas the quick scroll is going to change rapidly from red to green to blue to yellow. So you'll see a rapid transition, or you can have the slow rolling transition on the lights. The lights will turn themselves off automatically after 2 hours. The jets will turn themselves off automatically after 20 minutes. It's an energy saving feature. If you're going to continue to use the tub, just go ahead and turn the jets and the lights back on. But if you happen to leave them on and close the cover, it's totally okay. Matter of fact, the jets are actually programmed to run for 20 minutes when you turn them on, so that when you add chemicals to the water, you can run the jets and walk away, and it'll turn itself off. So jets turn themselves off, lights turn themselves off. When you add chemicals to the tub, I would recommend telling the customer to add the chemicals to the water and leave the cover in the up position. We don't want the chemical reaction with the bacteria in the water having an effect on the underside of this cover. Now, these covers are treated with a UV resistant material. They're also treated with a slight chemical resistant material, but because it's a porous surface, those chemicals can soak into the cover and cause some damage. So when you add chemicals to the tub, I would recommend leaving the cover in the up position. That goes for you. I would also recommend turning the air off unless you're using it. We don't want the granular chemicals. We talked about granular chemicals earlier. We don't want the granular chemicals getting in the air venturi systems. It can, over time, several years, weaken the venturi tubing and things like that. We don't want to do that. We don't want it sucking air when it shouldn't be. So best bet, turn the air venturi off, the air off when you're adding chemicals, and that will prevent future damage. The controller, really simple controller here. We'll get this thing fired up. We'll get some power to it, and we'll go over the controls. But I'm gonna do this for you guys on the video first. 3 simple buttons: temperature, jets, and lights. On 2 pump systems, you'll have 2 jet pumps, but still the temperature button, the jet buttons, and the light buttons. So temperature is going to set your temperature. When you push it, start pushing it, it's going to raise the temperature. When you stop for 3 seconds, let this display reset, and then hit the temp button again, it'll start going down. So to raise the temperature, just press it a bunch of times, it'll go up. Wait for the numbers to stop flashing, push that temperature button, it'll go back down. Jet button, you hit it the first time, it's going to kick the jets on in low speed. If you hit it again, it'll kick them on in high speed. So 2 stages on the jet button. And then lights are going to do very similar programming. You can turn the lights on and off until you get to your favorite color or your favorite show. Once you find your favorite color or your favorite show, when you turn the lights off and you come back and turn them back on, they're going to come back on that same program unless the tub loses power. When it loses power, you're going to turn power off to drain the tub. If you have a power outage or something like that, this controller may reprogram itself to default settings. I like the default settings on the controller because they come on at 100 degrees. It doesn't come on at a cold temperature. It doesn't come on at the hottest temperature. It comes on at 100 degrees. The programming also comes on to clean the tub every 6 hours. So if this, we're going to turn this tub on here in about 15 to 20 minutes. So it's going to be right at noon. So that means the cleaning cycles are going to come on at noon, 6, midnight, and 6 in the morning. So it's going to come on every 6 hours from when you turn that breaker off. So if you want to reset that and you want the run times to come on at 8 and 2 and 8 and 2, then you'll have to come out here, turn the power off at 2 o'clock, and then turn it back on. This thing's not very loud, especially with the cover down, the insulation on. The jet pump only comes on in low speed, so it's not very loud. If you're outside of a bedroom window, though, make sure that that doesn't affect with the customer's sleep cycle. So this one, like I said, I like the pre-programming on this. Comes on 4 times a day. Sometimes the customers can play with the controller and they can get it set into sleep mode or economy mode, or they can reprogram cycles. Nothing that they do to this controller, though, can't be undone unless there's some sort of manufacturer's defect or manufacturer's malfunction. So in which case, the customer's going to call us. We're a warranty center for this tub for 2 years, so all the components on the tub, the pumps, the controllers, the heaters, the filtration systems, not the filter elements themselves, but the filtration systems, the circulation systems, the plumbing, everything on this tub is going to be covered for 2 years. If they have a problem with the shell, it's going to be covered for 7 years. So if it cracks, blisters, peels, delaminates, basically breaks, or if a hole is punched in it and it starts leaking, the shell is covered for 7 years. The cover is the only item on the tub that isn't covered for those 2 years, and it's covered for 1 year simply because water chemistry can affect that. And setting heavy things on top of it, just misuse. They only cover the covers for 1 year. This cover being underneath an awning or underneath a roof system is going to last much longer than a hot tub with the cover just sat out in the open sun and elements. So we've got the frog system. The mineral cartridge is set to 6. The bromine cartridge is set to 2 because there's going to be 2 bathers most of the time. We've gone ahead and thrown the package of jump start shock into the tub, and we're running the jets to get all that dissolved. Heat is pending, okay. Yep. And then when it turns solid, that's whenever we know that it's heating. Right now, the water temperature is set to is at 68. It's set to 100. Now to set that temperature, like I said earlier, we're going to press the temp button up to 104, and then it's going to stop flashing, and then we're going to go down to 100, whatever the customer's comfortable with. 100 is a good temperature to start out with because it's just slightly over our body's natural temperature of 98.6 degrees. So at 100 degrees, we can stay in the water for a long period of time. At 104, we're either A, going to have to get out, or 2, we're going to have to sit in the cool down seat. You'll notice that it's much more elevated than the rest of the seats in the tub. It'll get your heart up and out of the water and allow your body to cool itself using the blood kind of as a radiator. This one is going to be your waterfall jet. This one is going to be the neck jet for these neck jets. And now it's heating.
Yeah, and it's usually whenever you turn the system on.
So like I said earlier. Is completely filled with water at all times. We don't want any air bubbles or air pockets. We don't want it surging. That right there just it sucks a little bit more. We probably need to add about a half an inch of water here.